Please welcome to the stage Donna Levin, CEO of the Arthur M. Blank School for Entrepreneurial Leadership.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. It is a pleasure to welcome you all to this very special Babson moment, one that celebrates the extraordinary journey of one of our own and the enduring impact of the Babson experience. More than 25 years ago, Jamie was among the first students to experience the newly established Arthur M. Blank Center for Entrepreneurship. What began as a bold experiment in entrepreneurial education has grown into a thriving ecosystem, one that continues to evolve, innovate, and shape how entrepreneurship is taught around the world. That early experiment has since expanded into the Arthur M. Blank School for Entrepreneurial Leadership, grounded in the very values and vision that guided those first students, and which I am proud and humbled to lead today. Jamie has taken the lessons and opportunities from his Babson experience and used them to amplify his journey as an entrepreneur, and now returning to Babson, it's moments like today that truly capture the heart of who we are as a community and the generational architecture we build together. When Jamie was a student, President Spinelli was a professor and mentor who helped fuel his early drive to build, to question, and to create. The mindset is passed from one generation of Babson entrepreneurs to the next, strengthened, refined, and reimagined with each new cohort. That's the magic of Babson, a powerful intergenerational network of people who push one another forward, who mentor, who challenge, and who model the values-driven entrepreneurship looks like in real life. Before I welcome Jamie and President Spinelli to the stage, I'd like to take a moment to thank Jamie's wife, Erin, and their son, Oliver, for being here tonight and sharing in this special celebration. Thank you. Tonight, legacy comes full circle. We have Jamie Siminoff, founder of Ring, who will be sitting beside President Stephen Spinelli, two generations shaped by this institution. Please join me in welcoming Jamie Siminoff and President Spinelli.
This is so much fun to have you all here and to have Jamie here. It's Babson's the only place in the world you can say the capital gain of teaching is bringing back a student. Most colleges would think that's some obscure technical phrase, and what we know is that we build value over time, and it's just wonderful to see how you go from the classroom into the world, into really changing the landscape of America, maybe beyond. And we do go back pretty far.
We do.
I had hair when I taught him, and it was a long, long time ago. One of the first memories I have of Jamie is that we needed to get to New York, or he needed to get to New York.
You needed to get to New York.
Was that what it was? I've flipped everything. The idea for Ring was really mine, and I told him about it. Most of what he does, I'm going to take credit for. He's very gracious about that. Tell him about the...
So we're at an event at Babson. I just graduated maybe a year or two, we were out. And Steve had to get to New York for his son's swimming event.
Yeah, yep.
And we're at this event, and it was snowing, and his flight gets canceled. And Steve says, it's like, this is the Babson thing, right? We're entrepreneurs, so it's like you take an opportunity. So Steve says, I needed to get to New York tonight, but my son's for my son's thing, my flight got canceled. And I said, I have a 4-wheel drive truck. Let's fucking go. And so,
minus the F word, I said, okay, let's go.
I think it was like family, death, family. So he decided I'll just go for it. And so we bombed down
It was a
New York.
It was a
bad
snowstorm. We spun around a couple of times. I was praying in the back seat. I begged him to go slower, and he said, I can't go slower, which was just a great metaphor for what his life was going to be like the rest of the time. Talk about your Babson experience a little bit and what you learned, what stayed with you, what you remember.
Yeah, Babson was really great. It was great. I was here today. I've come back a lot. The energy whenever I come back, I kind of remember what it was, and it was great professors who actually understood business. So they came from business. So you were talking to people that understood what you were about to go into. It was a group of very diverse kids from all over the world, from all over different places, thinking about different things that you talked to that kind of all had a singular focus on doing something. So that was it was fun to be surrounded by that. And I did learn, we always joke around because I had, also bad professors, but like Steve. But, you did learn a lot of I'm not sure if entrepreneurs, I'm not sure if you can make an entrepreneur, but you can certainly help them to become successful. And I think there's definitely, I think Babson, I'm not sure if, Ring would have been where it is if I hadn't learned some of the basics here to get me started on my journey.
And given that experience and how that's translated into a career, what would you say to the students that they ought to take away from this experience? This experience, Babson, and this experience tonight. I'm going to ask you that question again at the end.
My son is 17 now, and him and his friends are looking at colleges, and I'm thinking about that not only just for you guys, but also just my own family. I do think AI is changing kind of the world, and Babson, is one of definitely the places you want to be, because the future is going to be different for sure, but we don't know what that is. And Babson helps you to learn the fundamentals of how to react and be resilient. That's what entrepreneurship at its core is being able to see an opportunity and figure out how to adjust to it to sort of benefit society as well as yourself. So I think it is, what I would take out of this is stay resilient, have that grit, be gritty, and realize that no one knows where things are going to go. But when you have the fundamentals that you have here, I think you're set up for success.
One of the many discussions we've had over the last 25 years or so is sort of Jamie's nature. And is he unique? I've had this discussion. Are you unique, or can we really teach this to a lot of students? And he may be one of the extremes in the condition that we call entrepreneur.
Affliction.
But I used to say to him when he was a student that you are somewhere between, sort of toggling between intensity and insanity.
That was my life.
And I said, I remember, it may have been on a long, it took us 12 hours to get to New York that day because it was a snowstorm. It may have been on that. And I said, I'm not sure which way you're going to go in this, that this really flame is burning so hot.
I think that's a real entrepreneurship. You need to be breaking things. If you're doing something that everyone's that's great, that's probably linear. It's probably not entrepreneurship. That's kind of, which is maybe fine. It's not I'm not judging it, but you're certainly not going to create the next something if everyone's on board. I think you have to push things a little bit. You have to break things, and obviously try to do it safely, try not to break the law. But then you look, by the way, you say try not to break the law. Uber, Airbnb, both broke the law to get to where they are. So I don't recommend it, but it is, if you look, that's entrepreneurship can be kind of pushed to the limits. Now Steve's he's trying to reset from break the law, Airbnb, and Uber. I think I might I might have over curveball that one on him.
This is 25 years. This is the calm Jamie. We'll get him fired up, or he'll say, well, maybe I did break the law a couple of times.
You push things. I mean, my first business which is when I was in the car driving to New York with you, I was doing voice over IP into countries, third world countries, where it was not, I'd say, necessarily legal. So these countries had monopolies of their telecom. We had people trying to call home, very expensive. You'd put a voice over IP router there and you could kind of route the traffic there. And I was telling Steve about this as I'm like, and he's, and just, I don't know if he was white from the car spinning or the stories in these places. And he kind of, at one point, he goes, what do your parents say? I'm like, I don't really tell them all this stuff. Just kind of helped them.
There was a follow-on story to that. You were in somewhere in Europe or Eastern Europe, back in the communist era, and something happened. Tell that story. This is where a parent just has a heart attack, frankly. Go ahead. I mean, so we had a couple, we were doing something that pushes the law a little bit. And so, we had some close moments where they didn't really appreciate what we were doing as much as you'd think they would. The worst one actually was, the funny thing is, the worst one was actually in Barbados. Doesn't Barbados sound like you could do anything there? But Cable and Wireless, which was the company that owns all the telecom in Barbados, turned out to be a really nasty little business. I mean, they wanted to protect their monopoly. And so we had this voice over IP gateway there, and I went there and it stopped working. So what do? I get on the plane and I go there to fix it. And I found out when I got there that it actually stopped working because there was a court order against the thing. And so then I found out that it was more than just that. But anyway, so then I ran to the airport and got on the flight. The first flight out was to Trinidad and Tobago, which is very nice if you've ever been there. I wasn't supposed to go there, but I went there and that was good. And then I went home. Anyway. The constant aspiration and the push to try to do something different in the marketplace. There were several deals. As I remember, again, my memory suits me. I invested in a lot of them. And I remember, don't dissuade me if this is not true, I remember getting my money back, at least, in every deal that I invested in. Is that true?
I think you did. I was actually very good at I had a lot of not great successes, but singles, I guess you'd call them, in the baseball analogy. But we did get investors. I think I only lost once or twice on money, but overall, yeah.
We'll get into this a little bit later, but net, if you did the Jamie portfolio and Ring was part of it,
you were good.
You were good. Yeah. That worked out for
That was good,
us.
yeah.
But as I remember, and it was really interesting, a lot of small deals, a lot of big ideas, a lot of technical interface. Some seemed a little wacky. Most were rooted in a clear problem that you could talk about and articulate. And I remember having these discussions with you over and over, and you were incredible about saying, this is what I learned. And that's part of the lesson. I mean, we try to simulate that here with the classes and with the centers and institutes, and you were simulating that in real life with real money, but with a real sense of responsibility on the capital. And after the first one, it was a little wacky, and I said, I got the money back, and the guy found a way, and the second one, and the third one, and you start to say, something's going to happen here. There's a real process.
But it's a good lesson of, people, the number one question I get is, which failure, what failure did you learn from? I would say, the life is a journey. There's not failure means you stopped. And so if you don't stop, it really is, and it's I'm not just trying to wash over, but it really is learning. I mean, we had these businesses that I'd say, even if you got the money back, they were failures in terms of, you look at the time, give someone their money back after 2 years, it's a failure in terms of time. But you learn, and I was, it was, and people would say, like, oh, you're a serial entrepreneur. And it's like, no, I'm someone who hasn't been able to figure something out yet. Like, it's actually I'm not trying to start like little things. I just was kind of like, it took me longer. Like it's amazing. Some of these kids graduate college now and they'll like start something. And I'm like, this is like, like some of the kids I met today are like incredible, way smarter than I was. It took me like another like 10 or 15 years to kind of like hone it to get to that point where then I had something that got traction.
Well, even in the, moving to the doorbell part of your life, really started as
the ding dong, yeah.
The door, you went from sort of the sublime to the absurd with the Doorbot was your first company. Tell us about why Doorbot and how did that come about?
So I actually I had a company called unsubscribe.com, which was like a idea of getting people off of these gray market, spammy kind of commercial email lists. Didn't really work, but we kind of get the money back. And then I decided I was going to go in the garage and just invent stuff. I had all these ideas, and I'm just going to work on them, which people thought I'd lost my mind. True story. And when I was in the garage, I couldn't hear the doorbell. And so it was like two guys, like literally one of them was someone who graduated from when you did a small tenure at a school we won't name. Steve took a little bit of a time break between Babson. And I hired a kid from his old school. And so he was in the garage with me and we couldn't hear the doorbell. I got an iPhone. I looked online for a Wi-Fi doorbell. It just made sense that one would exist. Didn't. So I built one. And that was like, that was the start of it. And what do you call that thing when you're in a garage with a couple guys? It's a door robot. It's funny, Doorbot. Like, it's like, this thing's cool. Even like the first logo had like the O's were like eyes and stuff. It was like ridiculous. And then we started selling it, and immediately the first thing people would say is like, my spouse will not let me put a Doorbot on the front door. Like and they said like, not even what it looks like, just like the name Doorbot. And so we had a naming problem right off the bat that we had to fix.
That led to, eventually, I'm not sure the sequence, led to the Shark Tank experience. Tell us.
So I was in the garage working on this thing, and like a guy who used to work for me was working at another company and said, would you meet the founder just to talk to him about like founder stuff? I said, sure. And so I'm sitting with this guy and, talking, and he's like talking all the time, giving him like talking to him, but I'm also, the whole time I'm sitting there, I'm thinking like, you're going out of business in your garage with this stupid doorbell. And you're like here at this restaurant talking, like having lunch with this, I'm like literally thinking this, like you're having lunch with this guy, like this is just ridiculous. Like, I'm like kind of beating myself up. And then he says, what are you working on? And I said, this door. I mean, it's like, but at the time, it's funny. If you go back to when we were doing this, like saying you were working on a doorbell, all people did was laugh. Like, and it wasn't like their fault. Like you say, like, I'm working on a doorbell, and they'd be like, like you're like, no, seriously, like I really am. Like it was like but like you had to like explain it. No, it's like a doorbell has a thing. Like, oh, that's funny. Like I wonder if you could sell one of those. And so I said to him, and he's like, no, that's really cool. He's like, the Shark Tank, someone from Shark Tank's reaching out to people in the area. They want to try to get some like bigger products. Like they had a lot of these like little kind of home good kind of things. They wanted something like more like manufactured technology. Gives me the email. I email the Shark Tank person at the table driving home. The guy calls me while I'm driving home and says like, you need to be on Shark Tank. And I was like, that was insane. And at the time, Shark Tank's still a big show. At this time, Shark Tank was like, the ratings were insane. People talked about it. Like I think it was the number one show on TV, at least for Friday nights or something for like at that time. It was a big show back then.
It was the number one reality show, and there was a whole drama about it. And you eventually got on. And what happened?
Yeah, so I needed money, so it wasn't. I really, people now also say like, oh, it's so great they didn't invest in your thing. I'm like, we needed the money. Like I really needed the money, and so I go on Shark Tank and I pitch them. I think Mark Cuban I've made it up in my head that I'm going to go on and like pitch, and Mark's just going to be like Jamie, I got this. Like here's the check, and I'm like, yes, Mark Cuban's my partner. This is awesome. of course, like I pitch and Mark Cuban's like, Jamie, this is, I can't see this becoming a big business. I'm out. And the one thing the producers like tell you all this stuff, like the one thing they tell you is do not let them tell you they're out. You need to go as long as you can. Like you need to extend this as long as you can because when you're on Shark Tank, you're not guaranteed to be on Shark Tank. You're just filming. So they still have to like cut the episode up and everything. And so if they don't get enough tape, you're not going to go on Shark Tank. And I mean, it's just the first thing. And Mark's just like, I'm out. And so I died for a second. I think I actually did. I bet you if you had like a heart monitor on me, I bet you I like literally died for like a specific amount. And then I came back to life and then kept going and then got everyone back and got enough sort of tape to get on the show. Kevin O'Leary, who's actually, he's like the Mr. Wonderful, who's actually very nice, gave like a bullshit offer that was terrible that no one could take. That I'm sure he would have been happy if I took it, but like it wasn't really real. And then I walked off.
I was
dejected.
I'm watching the show, screaming, take the money. Take the money, take the money, take the money, no, I'm not taking the money. Take the money. Make a deal later, take the money. Nope, not, and he walked off the show. How would your life, I haven't thought of this one. If you had taken the money, how would your life be different?
I mean, the deal had a royalty on it. We probably would have gone with him to try to license it somehow. Like, who knows? But not, my guess is Ring would not exist today.
Is that right?
Yeah, because you would have the royalty. You can't make the product if you have a royalty. Like, there's no way a small company could make it. You couldn't make enough, capital, like profit to do it. So you would have probably gone and met with a bunch of different, like, smaller companies and tried to get one of them, get someone that's in security or something to make it, done some little deal. I probably would have thought I was a hero and had no idea that These are these weird things.
So you evolve in your thinking. At the point you said to the sharks, no thank you. Well, a couple said no thank you to you.
Yeah.
And you said no thank you to one. Then you walk off the stage, and how much money do you have, and what's the next day look like?
I mean, that was so we had raised at that point $250,000. The product was coming in late October, early November. We filmed in September. So we had to like pay another check to the factory, which I didn't have the money. So part of how you do it is you just like tell people like, yeah, of course I'm good for it. It's like, we didn't have the money. So we're trying to like sell our way into this. And there was just like, it was definitely like not good. Shark Tank's season starts in October and runs to May. They don't tell you if you even are going to be on the show. They won't tell you when it's going to be. So I basically drove off from there, and I was pretty like, it was rough because we didn't get money. We didn't know if we were going to be on the show, and if we were on the show in April or May, I don't think we would have still been around anyway. So it was like kind of, what you do, you go back to pitching venture capitalists and trying to build the product. I mean, I didn't have any other choice, but looking back, if we did not air on Shark Tank, I'd say 100% Ring would not exist.
So from being on Shark Tank, not getting offers, getting one you turned down, the public relations effect was what?
Well, so remember, we didn't, so we do tape, and then you're waiting. And then they call you 2 weeks before you go on. So you're just like you're literally kind of like waiting by the phone. And then all of a sudden, like one day, you just get this call. And it's the Shark Tank. What's funny is like, it's just like some rando at Shark Tank, like a person they hire just like calls, like has a list. And it's like, call Jamie, tell him he's going to be on air on November 4th or whatever. Like there's no, like I wanted to ask them 1,000 questions. Like I got on the phone and they're just like, the woman who called me was just like, yeah, sorry. And just like hung up basically. It was like, I can't tell you anything. I have no idea.
So what was your expectation after that? You've got, from when she called you, you're virtually out of money.
We were out of money because we owed money. So we were we were definitely negative at that point for sure. How negative, I don't know, but we were not in the positive. And the only way you go negative is just don't pay people, which is like not great.
No, not great. That's not part of what we teach is the.
Yeah. Yeah.
But sometimes it happens.
You know, you should have like a class like they call it deferred liabilities.
Yeah.
You should do a class. Like how to take the calls, like, oh, the wire didn't come? That's crazy. We sent that one out. I need to check. I'll have to go to the bank tomorrow and check. I'll call you tomorrow, and then you don't call. Like these are ways to defer your liabilities. I'll teach the class, Steve. I will come back. I'll come back and I'm going to teach that class.
You've got 400 students signing up for the class.
Yeah, it's like a good, yeah. Do I get paid by each student that comes in? Do I get like a bonus?
So you got to get equity in their company.
Yeah.
That's how you get paid. So what happens when Shark Tank airs?
So
how does that affect your life?
Well, so Shark Tank, to you don't know, it's in the book, which is very funny. We're going to go on Shark Tank, and they tell you like there's going to be a huge bump in sales. You got to prepare your website. You have to have inventory. I'm like, inventory is not a problem. Like we have literally my garage is full of Doorbots. Like this is great. Like we're going to be fine. So Shopify, which is now a $400 billion company, I think, something like $200 billion, like very large company. At the time was like a tiny little company, and Toby, who's the CEO, so I emailed Toby, and I'm like, Toby, like you need to I'm going to be on a big TV show, and we're using your service. Like you need to have this thing ready. And Toby's like, man, we got this. And I'm like, no, Toby, you don't understand. This show's big. And then he's like, we literally go back and forth like 9 emails. I'm like, no, Toby, it's Shark Tank. And he's like, don't worry, we have $1 million of servers, which is like, I mean, now they probably have like $10 billion of servers. So it's like he's like $1 million. I'm like, I'm going to be on Shark Tank. It's very funny. I actually got to talk to Toby about it like a couple weeks ago. I was laughing that we had this exchange. So you're getting ready for it. So now I'm thinking I'm going to get on the show. We're going to have we don't really know, but some massive amount of sales, like the hope, right? You get on and we air and it's good. And we have 100,000 in sales the first night. I think it was 100,000, which was not really for a little company. It's not bad, but it's if that's all it was, this is not good. This is bad. And then I also thought that the sales would be one and done. It would just be that, within an hour of the show, you get the sales, and that's why I was so worried. And then that's it. And then the next day was actually more. It was 150,000. It's that's weird. The next day was 175,000. Then it was 150,000. Then it was 100. So it just kept it literally kept going, the long tail. It was every day, and it never really. It came back down. But it never came back down. Our base before that was, I think we were doing $3 million a year before that, and I think it came down to $6-7 million run rate or something. It was kind of crazy. It was really. So that was weird. That was it just sort of stuck there, and that money is what let us live. I mean that money coming in. I all of a sudden I wired the factory their money. I'm like, of course it's on time. Here's your wire. It's oh my God. And then we were able to hire a couple new engineers, and that was the adrenaline boost we got that then created the flywheel of Ring that let us sort of get to the next level.
One of my very favorite teaching stories is when you asked me if I wanted to invest in Ring. And
well, actually, you thought I was calling to ask you about help, understanding how to do business.
I always assume that, no matter who calls me.
I'm like, Steve, I'm doing this new thing, blah, blah, blah. Do you want to invest? And he's like, Jamie, who's the customer? Jamie, if you extend franchising 101 in my book I wrote, and it's and finally, after 20 minutes of hearing about all this, Moore's law of the 6 Pythagorean says, I'm like, Steve, I don't really not that interested in the advice. I need the money.
And I said, I'll send you a check.
And you were sure you lost that money.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. I mean, it was
I wrote the check and I said, it's a contribution.
Yeah.
He's a friend.
He lit it on fire as he was sending it to me. It had burn marks on the edges of it when I got it.
You once said to me, your company resembles a pirate ship. I'm still not sure I understand
What a pirate ship is?
why you think your company's like a pirate ship.
That was like so culture, and there's definitely different types of companies that make it, and there's people that made much larger companies than myself. So it's not that there's certainly not one way. Our way was definitely pirate ship. We hired off of Craigslist. Kind of anyone did anything. I mean, our head of demand planning, we hired him literally off of Craigslist to pack the boxes and ship them out. And this guy, Dave, and he came to me early on. He's like, we're not ordering enough, whatever. And I'm like, well, then freaking order it. And then he came back like a couple of days later. He's like, you're not ordering enough of this. And I said, well, then order that. And then he said, we need to order parts for the next product because we're going to need them. And this guy's just got him off of Craigslist. He's packing the boxes, but he really understood what was happening in the business at that level. I said, okay. He today basically reports to the CFO of Amazon, does all the demand planning for our business. So it's like that. It's amazing. But that was a pirate ship. It was just the person packing the boxes starts to do that, and I think it's just that mentality just got things done, which allowed us to move really, really fast. For our business, where we were, what we had to accomplish, what we had to do, that worked, and that the whole mentality worked for us.
Part of the way Babson is evolving, it's the way it teaches entrepreneurship, is a greater focus on relationships. And you are a super interesting example of a guy who focuses on relationships, the relationship that we've had, the kid from Philadelphia, the people from Babson, the investors you have, some of the friends that you've brought here tonight. How does that differ? Why has that been good for you? Why has that been a successful, or is it? Is it just your personality, or tell us about that?
I mean, definitely, if you look at, I will say there's different types of cultures, there's different types of companies, people have been successful with different types of things. I would say the one thing I've never seen, and maybe you could point to a crypto company or something like that, but I've never seen a company make it that the people aren't incredibly unique and special in that business. That the team that comes together, not a person, but that when you go and meet with them, that you're not just in awe of just what that is. And those are always I'd say the nucleus of these great companies. And so I think that there is something, and I do believe with AI, we'll see the same thing, which is, yes, there's AI and it's going to maybe impact lots of stuff, but you'll still see the next great companies, I still think, will be based on great groups of individual people coming together. And that is different people too. It's not just one, I've never, homogenous cultures usually don't actually work very well for this. It's usually these kind of weird, peculiar groups of different people that create these amazing and magical things.
But it's interesting. He speaks to this subject with great eloquence and humanity. When I've talked to his employees, they've said, he fired me twice today.
It's there's a lot of passion.
That's what I'm going to say.
And, but I think, sometimes to move things forward, you need, depends on the business. We're in a very, electronics is a very tough business. It's low margin. You have to get big. It's huge capital costs. It is you have to fight for this business. And so it's a tough one. And I think by doing that, I certainly don't, there's lots of things I do that aren't great. When you get the right people around you, they actually, they understand when I'm you're fired, that I don't mean you're fired. I mean, we got to do this. Sometimes.
Why did you write this book, and why now?
The stories, I would tell the stories of Ring. I think Ring has become, it is very strange because it's my company.
I love it.
I love it. I love it too. But it's really it is kind of on everyone's front door. It is this world's largest home security company, and it's crazy kind of what it came from, the garage and all these kind of stories. And I just felt over time, I just felt I kind of deserved it. I think I needed to do it to like unpack the trauma of the story a little bit. Like it was like interesting for me. I through the book process, I did a lot of the stuff, the stories that I thought maybe I was right on. I realized like maybe I was wrong. And, sometimes that passion, like the same insanity that built, like you would not build Ring, I think, without some insanity. Like I don't believe you could have built that business without the insanity, but that also like hurt us in a lot of ways as well. So it's like the sort of the balance.
It's a really long and gritty story that you tell, and it's interesting. It's the first time, I'm just over 100 years old, and it's the first time I've ever read a book and then listened to it, which was just fascinating, especially because you do the book, you read the book.
Yeah.
So it's your voice, and I know your voice. So I'm listening to you tell your story. I'm not sure everyone would have exactly that same experience, but it was a wild educational experience. I read the book and I had a framework in my head, and I like to study, so I studied it, and I wanted to ask him a lot of questions, and I wanted to teach him something. He wouldn't listen, but I wanted to try anyway. And then I listened to the story and I listened to his voice, and it is emotionally charged in the book, and you do it in a somewhat dramatic fashion. And I know you're business trained, but there was real sort of an example of who you were in that book. And it changed my perception of a lot of things. What was the experience like in reading that book into its audio version?
So the audio was, I will say, if you ever write a book, do not do the audio book unless you like have a high threshold for pain. So I'm glad I did it. I really am. But it is one of those things. In business, one of my superpowers has been that I get myself involved in something and I get too far before I realize I shouldn't do it. And so like the audiobook was the same thing. I'm like 2 hours into reading the audiobook and I realize I should not be doing this. This is going to take forever and this is painful. If I really had kind of understood that, I probably wouldn't do it. But once I'm already in there and doing it, like you're kind of like past the point of no return, so you do it. But it took me 24 hours of reading to get the 8-hour audiobook because I'm not like a trained like audio. Like it turns out like there's audiobook actors. There's people that like actually do this for a living. I am not one of those. I could be now, I think. Maybe it's something. Maybe I'll do that if I have to. But it is. It's brutal. But I am glad I did it because I'd say as a consumer of audiobooks, like I love audiobooks. I have found that when the person who wrote the book reads it, it's just a different experience. And so I always appreciated that they did it. Now I appreciate it more because I realize like how hard that is.
If I were to teach your case, it's a long case, so you'd have to teach it as a course. I would make them do both, and I would judge the answers, or I would split the class in half. And I would ask a bunch of questions on the book, and I'd ask a bunch of questions on the audio, and I wonder what the difference would be, and what the sort of sense of humanity that the voice brings.
We'll do it as part of the deferred liability class. Deferred liabilities and ding dong.
What? I like to leave them with an idea they're going to remember forever. So I used to do this in class all the time, is try to give them one or two key things. Can they remember this? It's probably better than the whole class. What are the one or two or three things you would want this group to take away from this meeting?
See, the thing is, so you said that, like, I remember we were actually in the classroom today that I was in Steve's class in, and I just remember him always going back to customer. You always went back to customer. Like it was one of those bad books where every chapter is the same thing. Like every class with Steve was like customer. And it's like, well, can't we maybe learn about something else?
No.
And it was customer. And he was right. Like it's one of those things you boil down to, which is like business is definitely hard. But it's actually not. Like when you just go do it, it's actually not. Like it is solving a problem for a customer. And just go do that. Like don't there's all this like weight on top of it and stuff, and like it's in the end it's like find that people were not home and they couldn't hear, couldn't see and hear who's at their door. That's a problem. Fix it. And so I think it is like, if there's anything, it's like find a problem that impacts people and fix it. And, it starts with just like customer.
So you're an interesting, you found a problem and you solved it. But as I got into the book, and I frankly did not understand this through the whole process, that you were tech obsessed on this. And you're not an engineer. You're not a physicist.
Self-taught, but no, I mean, truly, I am like self-taught, but yeah.
Well, it is, the detail around the engineering was interesting and difficult.
Yeah.
And you were really solving a problem that no one else had solved. How do you get the confidence to say, I can do the science necessary to make this work?
I mean, it is partly like what I just said about the audiobook, which is put your, invention, constraints really, do create invention. I mean, it's like necessity is the mother of invention. And so I put myself in a place where I needed to, like I said I was going to do something, and then we actually had to deliver it. Like I was pre-selling a product before I actually had it done. Like you had to figure this out. Our motion detection was done in a way that no one had ever done before. And luckily, as a self-taught engineer, I had enough of an understanding of how the physics of certain things worked, but I had not been taught how they couldn't work. Like no one had told me that you couldn't put 3 PIRs with a simple algorithm to create motion zones. They did teach that to engineering students though. And so when I said, let's do this, they're like, you can't do that. And then I was like, but why? Like, I don't understand. Like, it seems like it should. And then you find someone who's like, I guess you could, let's try it. And then you try it and then it works. And so that was like, we invented a lot of stuff by like kind of breaking it by just like, sort of like, it's like, again, it's simple as like, ask why. And I would say like, even with engineering today, I think you can, like you certainly, there are areas where you want to learn, obviously, like the basics and the physics and all that stuff. But then there are ways to just like, I think using these ChatGPTs and other things, like I think there's ways to ask why. And healthcare we're talking about today is the same thing. I think there's like these ways that like entrepreneurship is what helps us break these things out.
So how do you see that into the future at Ring? You've had this very interesting, well, go through your story a little bit. There, not there, now there. And now the future.
So yeah, so I sold it in 2018. I left in 2023. We grew it almost 10x from when we got there to Amazon. It was a crazy like run. I was burnt out. I literally just was like burnt out. I just needed to do something else. I tried doing some other stuff. I realized I really loved Ring. I mean, I kind of did some stuff that was sort of neat, but I really did love Ring. I missed the mission of making neighborhoods safer. At the same time, when I left in 23, and then AI sort of just started to come up, and you could see what AI could do for, like, Ring is all about making neighborhoods safer, and it was all of a sudden my whole mission and vision and everything else that sort of, I sort of got it to a point, I'd say, where it almost peaked on a technology side in 23, and that was kind of, it was fine. It was going to keep growing, but there wasn't like big innovations that I could see anymore. And then all of a sudden AI came in and I'm like, wow, I could do crazy stuff with this. And I got very lucky and Amazon was very kind to let me come back and about 7-8 months ago. And now I've been back and been building some stuff and we've been launching some cool things in AI and neighborhood security. And I think we're going to really change, like I sort of almost again, like I feel like we can change again what's happening in neighborhoods and how people live in security and safety.
One of the Siminoff stories I tell is saw that he had called and he left a message, 2023 or 18 or one of the, I don't know when you saw, I forgot. And it said, I just left Jeff Bezos' office. I bet you're going to want to call me back. That was a good one.
That was a good day for everybody. That was a good day for all. Yeah, that was fun. That was fun.
And what is your hope for the students who are graduating soon?
Yeah, again, I think you are graduating at a time where I'd say it's the one of the hardest times in terms of like what the world's going to be like in the next few years. I think it is. I do think AI is one of the biggest disruptions that maybe we've ever seen. And so I think, my hope is that you guys are able to use what you've learned here to figure out because there'll be definitely some, headwinds and tailwinds. There'll be some tough things with that, but there's also going to be lots of opportunities. And I hope that you're able to find the opportunities and find the positive and also build the positive for the world. And I'm very hopeful that you will. So
We'll.
Oh, there's our.
Yeah,
That's all right.
Lovely sound.
Yeah, that is it.
For me, or maybe for you, the sound of money, even.
That was we used to when we'd walk to like an airport or something. Aaron, Ollie, and I would be like walking through the airport, and this was like earlier in Ring, so it wasn't like all the time. And we'd hear like that sound or the sound of the motion detection, and Ollie and I would look at each other and go, and Aaron would do exactly what she just did.
Tell us, we're going to open this up for questions in just a minute, but one of the interesting things for a teacher when you have a student that you become friends with, let alone an investor, is you get to know their family a little bit. And I remember thinking, he's a great guy. I do love him. He's nuts, but I really do love him. And he says, well, I've got this woman, I think we're going to get married. And I said, oh boy, does she have any idea? And I should meet her. And she is so much cooler than he is.
It's true.
I mean, it just blew my mind. She reads books and makes movies. She's so much smarter, dramatically better looking. It is just, I was overwhelmed by the power of the couple. And then their wonderful son, and they bring up a bunch of friends today. And I said, this is really a special.
Well, Steve, after deferred liabilities, I took marry better than yourself. So Babson gave me everything I needed to go out there and live a great life. So thank you, Babson.
I love you. I love you. Oh, Donna, come on back up, and let's welcome some folks to ask some Q&A.
Oh, good. So I was going to say thank you for the inspiring conversation. It was absolutely entertaining, and we felt like we were just watching you guys hanging out in your living room together, having this great conversation.
That's right. There's people out here.
Yes. I can't wait for that class.
Yeah.
Here on campus, I'm sure a lot of students will want to take it. And your message about resilience and your perspective on failure, and then also just your proof of the value of lifelong relationships. It's been fabulous. We want to bring all of you into this conversation. And so as you can see, there is now a microphone here in the middle. If you have a question, just go ahead and get yourself lined up by the microphone. We're going to try and go through as many questions as possible. As some of you, I had the pleasure of seeing at Rocket Pitch last week. We're not going to do Rocket Pitch tonight. But we will listen to pitches later. This is really an opportunity to ask your question, and we will get to as many questions as we possibly can. So go ahead and get us started.
Hi there. Thank you for coming and speaking. My question to actually both of you is, at what stage did President Spinelli come invest in Ring? And President Spinelli, why?
So he actually did the angel round. So he was in like the first round. And the why for me is the people that invested in it first were the ones that, and I this is like the heartfelt, like not the jokey thing, is the people that would give you the money. Like if you ask them, like, yeah, I was serious with Steve. I was like, I need the money. Like I'm not like, it wasn't like now it's like, it's very funny now. Like we returned a lot of it. Like it's very funny. It's hysterical. But like at the time, it was my brother, Steve. Like it was like a short list of people to call to say like, send me $100,000.
Yeah, it was really investing in people. I didn't love the idea.
He said that.
Yeah. He said, it's not a big enough market. You don't have the technology. Here.
I think he even said, like, how much is a doorbell now? This is like $200.
I asked him,
TAM. He's throwing out, like, every business school.
Well, I also wanted to get a better deal. And I figured if I showed him I was really smart, he might, he didn't, and it worked out great.
Thank you.
Thanks for the question.
Jamie, thank you so much for being here. So a couple months before you guys sold to Amazon, your company went through a lot of scaling hell. Could you talk a little bit about that? And then any advice you'd give to a founder to stay mentally sane if they're going through a similar period of crisis in their company?
Yes, I mean the book. It's a kind of a long story. I'm not just trying to get you to like read the book or even buy it, but you should. It's on Amazon. But it is like the story is kind of just crazy because right at the end we did literally almost go out of business, and the difference of time from like when we figured that out to selling was like less than 30 days, which is crazy. I mean, you literally went from negative and zero to selling the company to Amazon. I mean, it's nuts. I think the only thing you can tell people is that that story is not that uncommon. Like it's part of even writing the book is that it's not to teach you something, it's to understand that the journey is tough and you got to stick it through. And the only way to make it is to that's why I said about failure. Like you got to just keep going. If we had just shut down when it got tough, like you would have been done, but you had to see it. You have to see it through. Part of how I saw it through is that stopping you would have been in a worse situation in some ways. So I was like over my head, which is not a good piece of advice. But I do think like for those that want to be entrepreneurs and want to go out there and do this, I think like hopefully you take a little bit of comfort when you're at that night that's like the worst of your life and you're like, well, at least I know this has happened to other people, but it doesn't mean it's going to turn out okay. But like, at least I know that this is not like, it's not just me. And so I don't know. I hope it's hard. I will say entrepreneurship is hard.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi. First of all, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to come out and speak with us tonight. My name is Rosie Rubin, and you actually may recognize it because about 1.5 years ago, I cold emailed you asking you to come speak at Babson for part of my marketing course. Never quite got the response, but thank you for finally making the time.
He's here.
I was going to say, this is going to turn out great. No.
Guys, I planned this entire thing. You're all super welcome. My question to you is you recently said you like marathoners, people that find a hard problem and stick it out. What advice would you give to 20-somethings or undergrads that haven't exactly had that 5 or 10-year runway to kind of prove that we are those marathoners? What advice would you give to signal to a founder like you that we are those marathoners?
Yeah, so I say I like marathoners because I think, it's especially with, TikTok now and all these things, like we've gotten used to this like milliseconds of success. Like, it's like you see something and it's like just feels like it's like, so it's very easy to feel like you're not making it or, or like get, dissuaded from like, what you're doing because it's like, I've been doing this business for 15 minutes and it's like not working. And when you look, like I'd say the average business is 7 to 10 years is what the average would be to like have some success. A lot are longer, some do hit really quickly. I think to show someone that you are someone that's going to stick with it, it's hard. Like you said, it's like hard. I mean, if you're 20, like you've been maybe doing some stuff for the last 1 or 2 years. I mean, if you said you've been doing stuff since you were 10 years old, it probably is less believable even even if you had. But I think, the best way to get, if you want to get a job with an entrepreneur in an entrepreneurial company, is just be like, I'll do anything. Like, I think that's the thing that usually works is like, what do you need me to do? Like, how can I be here? I want to be here longer than anyone else. I'll work harder than anyone else. And like, and by the way, and if I don't, then like fire me. We joke around about like the fire fast thing and firing, but like the other side is like just throw it out there. If you want to work with entrepreneurs, like be an entrepreneur. Just say like, like I'll match up to you. And then by the way, like work hard. Like if I do think you got to put the time in. And again, I think something that I see that's hard now is, and I do think it's social media, is like we just see our friends out and doing fun stuff and living great lives and being they're influencers and they're like, and it's like, yes, there's a percentage that's that, but I think it's like working hard is still part of what you have to do to be successful.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Hi, Jamie and Steve. Thank you so much for this really insightful session. So my question to you is, you mentioned that you've started a lot of businesses before Ring, like you mentioned the voice over IP business, you have Gatronics, you have phone tech. And so with a lot of different problems in the world, a lot of societal problems, how did you know that this mission of making neighborhoods safer is a problem that you want to dedicate your life towards for the next couple of years?
So I think I think the mission to make neighborhoods safer is my best invention. And I say that in that it's such an incredible thing to be able to work on, both because it's really it's like what a great thing to wake up in the morning to do, as well as it's like an infinite truth. Like it's never going to actually get fully solved, but it's something you can always work on, and it's big. So I think if you can find a mission in something that's big, that you feel passionate about, and that you kind of like want to work on every day. Also, something that's like unsolvable but tangible is great, because you can go to work every day and get like a little closer. We just had something happen that's like amazing it was not released yet, but it'll be released like this week in something that we built. And like it's a great impact, and it just like that. I like so jazzed at the things that we can do like every week, every month, every year to sort of do that. And that's why I do think it's going to be more and more important to work on things that matter. If you're just working for money, like if it doesn't work out, then you like literally just lost. If you're trying to make neighborhoods safer and it doesn't work out, like at least you try to make neighborhoods safer. So,
thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, Mr. Siminoff, President Spinelli, thank you. My name is Nico Katie. I didn't send you an email, unfortunately. I was kind of curious. I'm a founder, or I have an idea. I think it could change the world. You know,
rocket pitch. See? We got the rocket pitch. Let's go.
The hardest thing I'm finding is a lot of the books. And I could just be reading the wrong books, but they talk about Steve Jobs and Wozniak went from a garage to the big circle in California. I'm kind of curious in that really early stage, like how you went from the garage or even the idea of the doorbot to, I mean, I'm not an engineer, and you said you're a self-taught engineer. How did you motivate yourself or how did you like approach that problem and teach yourself how to become an engineer? That's kind of how.
So I'd always been hacking like engineering stuff all my life. So like I kind of had a little bit of that. But I'd never built a product anywhere remotely like Doorbot at the time, and I actually started selling it before I had even like really understood how to build it. Necessity is the mother of invention. You got to kind of put yourself into that. If you really want to build something, get on a flight and go to China and start emailing people and say like, this is what if it's like for me that was an electronics product, like you had to get there, and so you just like showed up. You just got to find engineering companies, find this. I mean, just like, again, you now have all these AIs, ChatGPT. It's incredible the complexity that they can build now. So I just like, you got to just try everything, but you sort of have to make it work, because if you plot out what we did at Ring, it doesn't actually it's like you broke physics. Like it's like it doesn't make sense. Like how do you go from like looking back, I couldn't do it again. Like I don't know how I went from the garage to selling it to funding this. Like it's like it kind of doesn't, like it's like almost like fuzzy math. Like it doesn't seem to work. I did it, so like I think it's real, but it doesn't. It's like crazy. Like, and so I think you have to. It's also with Steve Jobs, it was like the reality distortion field. Like I think you do have to like in some ways distort reality a little bit. You can't because it's not gonna be A to B.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Vera Mandian. Thank you so much to Spinelli. Thank you, Jamie. Thank you, Donna, and the Arthur M. Blank Center, and everyone who's made this event possible. Moments like these are certainly why I'm glad every day that I said yes to Babson, and Babson said yes to me. So I'm very happy to be here. To Jamie specifically, you came across so many different professors during your time at Babson, and to President Spinelli, you came across so many different students. So I'm curious as to what special qualities did you both witness in each other that made you not only want to be partners in the classroom, but also go on a lifelong journey of learning together?
Well, that's a great question, because he did not want to be my partner in the classroom. So
I'm the
I
teacher,
had,
you're the
so there was there's a business plan competition here called was called the Muller Prize. And in order to be in it, you had to have your professor that did the business plan sponsor you. My professor that I did the business plan for left. And so I was professorless for my business plan. So I went to Steve Spinelli, my professor, and I said, could you please be my sponsor for this? And Steve Spinelli said, no, because I win, which was not very professorial. But he did push me to then make the business plan better. So I came back, it was like Fight Club. So I came back like a week later. And I said, how would you do it now? And he said, it's better, but I still only win. And we came back. And finally we came back and he said, okay, it's good enough. I'll take you. Which then, then he became our sponsored professor. And then we did become partners. And so I think, I don't know, do you remember that,
actually,
Steve?
I do. But I said that to everyone because I just wanted them to get better. And I knew if I said that, especially him, Jamie, he was the kind of guy that if you said, no, you're really good, it really pissed him off. If you didn't say, oh, this is great, he was good, you knew and I learned that early, that you can just say, yeah, you're okay. And he'll work 50 times harder. He can't help himself. But he did teach me a lot about what tenacity is. It isn't just about, I work hard, but he works hard with purpose. And I think a lot of students have taught me that. What is the end game? What is the big problem I'm going to solve? Not what am I going to do today? And that was part of the thing that I thought was remarkable in a 21-year-old guy that could do that. The second part, which he's not as well appreciated for, he is really a warm person. He is funny, but he's there's a sense of humanity.
Thanks.
Yeah. I mean, good humanity. He's not great yet.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Siminoff and Mr. President Spinelli. Sorry, I'm a little nervous, but I do have a question. You mentioned how when starting Ring and the multiple companies that you did before Ring, you were fortunate enough to have President Spinelli along your side and also amazing connections that helped you along the way. I do have a question for everyone in the room that is under the age of 18 to 24. If you were to start building a business with no money, no connections, essentially no resources, what skills or what trait would you say you would need in order to become successful?
I mean, I think it's like grit and determination. I mean, you just got, and I would say everyone has connections. You just haven't realized it yet. You gotta, it is fight. You gotta fight for it. You gotta, a lot of the stories of people that have connected with amazing people that help them are they, and I mean, don't stalk people, but you cannot be sometimes not that far off. I mean, send emails, send whatever, call them, try to do stuff. Aaron's laughing. But I do think you don't let someone stop you from succeeding. The world is hard. The world's not for you. The world's not built to help you through this. And I think you have to take the initiative to do it. And you gotta find those things. And so I would say I think a lot of times you gotta, and again, figure out your way of doing it. Also figure out how it fits you. But I would if there's some, if you want to do some sort of whatever, make a beverage or something, then go the top 10 CEOs. Just keep trying to hammer in and find one that'll talk to you.
Thank you.
Right, Steve?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Good evening, Jamie and President Spinelli. First of all, thank you so much for coming to speak to us tonight, Jamie. My name is Rania Ishouf. I'm a sophomore at Babson. One of the key points of the conversation that you both kept coming back to was this point of customer obsession, knowing your customer. And in other instances, you've also referenced the need to be very nimble in how you operate your business. So I'm curious to know, how do you go about implementing changes that are coming from the customer while also operating in a difficult landscape of electronics that's very expensive at times?
So it's a great question. So one is I get the inputs, like my email's on every box. So I still get very direct input from the customers, like that ground truth data. And then I also try to run a very flat organization. So it's not like I've never had a meeting with my like direct reports, as they would call it at a big company. Like most people have like that every week. Like I don't do that kind of thing. So I go straight to the source. So if someone's has a problem with our batteries, like I'm with the battery person talking to them directly. So you cut out so many layers in doing that. And I do think that that way of running flat organizations is much better versus having these very like I think a lot of times as companies get big, it's like the VP talks to the EVP talks to the director and like at the end of the day, there's like a person down somewhere that's just doing it. And so I like to just go and get it done. And I also like to like roll my sleeves up and do that. And I think we've seen that we do move way faster than I'd say any other company in electronics.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Good evening, President Spinelli and Jamie. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you to the Arthur M. Blank Center. So my question is a little bit different. As you know, the world is moving forward with AI, and it's a resource that's very tempting to use since it's available. So if I would say you were to start Ring maybe today and had AI as a resource to use, how would you use it, and how would you balance originality with innovation?
It's interesting because it is becoming interesting from the school side. From my side, there's no cheating in winning in business unless you're like doing something illegal. And so don't do illegal things. Well, we kind of talked about it, but don't do really illegal things. But I think there is still a concept that if it's not hard work, it's not then it's not the output's not worth anything. And ChatGPT can give you stuff that like a team of 30 people could have before. And I think people are almost like afraid to use it because it almost feels like it's like cheating. And I'd say like we're all in on AI at Ring and to go faster. Like we're just going to be all in on it. I think it's something you don't fight that wave, and we just go all in.
I have a thesis in specifically business education and very specifically at Babson, that AI is going to eliminate a lot of the sort of routine functions. It's happening already. And traditionally in business, what people do is they hire you into a management trainee position. You spend a few years using resources and destroying value, and then you get a position where you can actually do something that's productive. And the responsibility of Babson, the responsibility of colleges now, is to put you on the value creation curve the day you graduate, maybe even before. So we've got to accelerate and be nimble, and we've got to understand what value creation is for the world, for commerce, for the companies you're going to work for. You've got to understand what your role is, and we've got to prove to industry that you're going to go and create value, and let all those other jobs go to AI. That's okay. We're going to create value.
Thank you.
Hi, Jamie and President Spinelli. My name's Connor. I was wondering, what's your most major setback in life or your entrepreneurial journey, and how did you overcome it?
There was definitely, I would say there's been a lot. For me, the things that have let me overcome the hardest ones are just being too far, like all in. If you had given me at a lot of different points on the Ring journey, I would have handed the keys over if I just could have gotten out of it without any sort of damage to myself. But that actually just wasn't the case. Like you couldn't do that. If I had like walked away, I had liabilities from the deferred liabilities class again. So I think like part of how like I've got through that, which is not, again, I wouldn't like recommend to put anyone into those situations, is like you get yourself into a place where like the only avenue out is success, and you then like you push yourself to invent. I would say like besides that, from a tactical side, as much as I like joke that I punch walls, I yell, like I'm very passionate. When things are really bad, I call it like pilot mode. Like I go just like calm, like succinct, just going through like, okay, how do we get out of this? And it's like very, very calm. Because like if you look at almost anything that you do, if you freak out when things are really bad, that's usually when you have the worst outcome. And so the best thing you can do is like if something is really going bad is like, okay, like get like super calm and then just start going through the checklist, like going through each thing one by one to get yourself out of it.
Thank you.
Good evening, Jamie and President Spinelli. My name is Boris, and I was curious if, while you had received those rejections from those sharks and those big investors, if you had any conversations afterwards and what they were like.
So I've actually become friendly with a bunch of them. Kevin O'Leary and I do a lunch every summer now for a bunch of people. Hershevek and I are friends. I was just actually talking to Mark Cuban about something. So they're great. I really do. I love I think the Shark Tank show has been so inspiring to like a generation of people, to show them that they can imagine and dream and build businesses and do it. So I think it's been just a great show. They're sort of great people. And so it's been fun to be like a part of that family and also be like one of the largest company ever to appear on it. It's been fun also.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
How you doing? Thank you for being here tonight. I just wanted to ask you, during your days in the garage and slowly scaling Ring, how did you spread your killer mentality to your employees so that they share that same drive as you?
The best way to like from a culture side, I think the best way to have culture, one is like authentic. So I think a lot of cultures fail because they're like everyone gets together and makes the culture that they like they write out like we want to do these things, and then it's like we're going to pass out the note cards of culture. Like when the culture was like built from the garage, those core team members then went and we hired people, and it kind of just like it scaled that way. I think you have to build the business around the culture. Having the mission helped with the culture. So like the mission to make neighborhoods safer got everyone sort of like everyone could have a clear vision of what the North Star was, like what the company was trying to accomplish. And then the other thing is being everybody in the company. If someone came in and sort of was not culturally aligned, it was incredible. Like I always said, it was like antibodies, and like they would like find the foreign object and like basically like push it out. And so we were very good at like protecting the culture for a long time. I'd say even still today, I mean, for how big the business is, it's still a pretty strong culture of like getting things done we call our customers neighbors. I think the vernacular also matters. Like neighbors is like all those little things, like they all like, if you look at great cultures that are out there, whether it's Home Depot, Disney, like they have like all these like interesting names and things that they use.
I think defining a culture is important. We talk about culture in very abstract ways. And culture means the following things at this company. And when you don't fit the culture or you can't influence the culture, you tend to go away. When you really believe in those cultural values and you can live them out and there's a reward and you bond around it, that doesn't mean agreement and hugging and kumbaya all the time. It can lead to, and you will have dramatic fights and throwing chairs at each other. It's the culture that keeps you together. It's the common values that get you through the hard times.
And I would say like there are companies that are full kumbaya that have been super successful. Like it's not, but that's who they are. So I would say like I think the most important thing is like
got to be authentic.
The authenticity of it, and also the business that you're in, how it all fits together. That's how it matters. And then being, I think it took me a while to also realize that when I didn't feel like going to the like. You could feel culture dying when like you didn't want to be there anymore. Like you're almost like kind of like giving into everyone's stuff, and you sort of like the culture needs to be what you want to be at, like you as a team. So super important though. Thanks.
Hey Jamie, hey President Spinelli. My name is Ketan, and I actually am, just as you are, very concerned about neighborhood security. So I actually started my own company. It's called Nightwave AI. And we actually have a pilot with the Columbus Police Department, and we were talking to a lot of people there.
Competitor. Keep going.
No, well, that's actually where the question comes in. A lot of time when we talk to these people, they say like, the biggest issue is that we have a lot of systems that sometimes may use AI and may not. And we want to sort of have it all in one place. And when it comes to like Ring and Blink, a lot of times we have to ask for permission. Can we get, certain video files or whatever it may be? So do you see sort of a direct partnership, sort of law enforcement having access to that, directly in the future?
So we've launched community alerts with Axon and Flock, where most police departments now can ask for footage from our Ring neighbors and our Blink customers. It's very privacy protected, so people, if they say no, the police won't even know who they asked, but if they say yes, obviously they can share it. So that was something that I launched a long time ago. I kind of went through some different sort of maturations, and now it's back, and we are fully behind it. So hopefully it'll help whatever you're building, and that you won't compete with me. Because these Babson kids are tough.
Oh, they're tough.
I don't want to compete. Like, it was a Harvard kid, I'd be like, fine. But a Babson kid, I don't want to deal with that.
Can't promise anything, but thank you.
I'll see you on the field.
Hello, Jamie and President Spinelli. My name is Isaac, and I wanted to actually thank you, Jamie, because after I saw your Shark Tank pitch, I decided that I wanted to come to Babson and spend the next 4 years of my life here. And my question for you is, if you woke up tomorrow and everything you've built with Ring was gone, no brand, no team, no connections, and you had to start from zero, what would be the first thing you would do in order to build yourself back to the person you are today?
Call me.
Yeah. I'd phone a friend. Do I get a commission on that, by the way? I get a commission on your thing to help me get the money. I think it's a great question in that, like, if that truly was where it is, I probably would not be able to do it again. I don't think I'd have the energy to go through what I did. Is the honest answer. Like, I don't think I could do what I would need to do to get there again if everything was stripped away. Which kind of scares me a little bit, but also I think, maybe these things are sometimes like there's a time for it. And I think I could start another company and be successful, but you're talking about if I had to start like basically back in the garage fully again. Yeah. I don't know if I could do it.
Or more the person you want to become, or like the person you are now. How would you build yourself back up?
I mean, I think I still have, grit, would work hard. I just think it'd be tough. It's an interesting question though. Like, what would you?
Part of the answer, I'll answer for him.
Yeah. Help me out here, Steve. Phone a friend.
Is he has a support system around him that he didn't as fully at the beginning, but having Ollie and Aaron makes a difference.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hi, Jamie. Thank you for being here. I know that Shaquille O'Neal was an early investor in Ring. Obviously not as cool as President Spinelli, but
no, bigger, but not as cool.
I was wondering how that partnership came about and kind of what the impact was on the business.
So, like many things, I dreamed bigger than I could, and so I had like a bigger appetite than what I could actually take down. I was like, maybe we'll do a Super Bowl. We were doing TV commercials, but we could barely afford those. I'm like, maybe we'll do a Super Bowl commercial. Well, if you do a Super Bowl commercial, and you're an unknown company, you probably need a celebrity. So then I called an agency in Los Angeles and said, like, how do I hire a celebrity? They said, that's what we do. I said, that's great. I'm Ring. I kind of explained what we were doing, and they said, okay, like, well, if anyone comes up kind of, but like, it's going to be really expensive. I was like, all right. And so he calls back and says, actually, I was just talking to Shaquille O'Neal's people. Shaquille bought rings and was asking about it. And it's just so funny that we were talking. He'd like to meet you. It's like, I'm like a kid from Jersey. Like, Shaquille O'Neal wants to meet you? Okay. You had me at that, you had me. And so Shaquille came to our booth at CES, which was crazy because usually like people, they're like the sort of the big people and the celebrities and the big executives will meet like some private room somewhere in some hotel suite. And Shaquille's like, no, I want to meet him at his booth at CES, which is the electronics trade show. So I don't tell anyone because I figure Shaquille's not showing up and it's going to be more embarrassing if I say that like he's coming and he doesn't show up. And then all of a sudden, like, you can see him. I mean, he is big. Like, he is, like, it's like he is just big. He's, like, tall and just big. And so you just see this, like, giant sort of man coming down the aisle, and there's all people around him. And he just walks up, and he's like, I'd like to talk to the CEO of Ring. And I'm like, I'm the CEO of Ring. And he's like, you're too young. Okay, Shaquille, it's like, and so we end up talking and, we talk about, I'm telling what we do and making neighborhoods safer and all this stuff. And he's like, okay, I'm in. And it's like, that's cool. I didn't tell you about our financial situation though. We should probably talk about that. And so I said like, well, money, I'm trying to be like, the guy's super nice, but I'm like, I don't know how to like tell him like, we can't probably afford him. And so I said, well, I don't know the payment. And he puts his hands in his ears and starts going, la, la, as loud as anyone has ever done it. And his guy goes, no, Shaquille, when he wants to do something, just does it. And he goes, trust me, it's gonna hurt, but we'll make it work. So it's like not it wasn't volunteer work. And then Shaquille said he wanted to put it into equity and Ring. That's how he wanted to get paid. And so it ended up being a great, he's great at these guys spots businesses, and it was a great partnership. At that time we were pretty small, like just kind of coming up. And so definitely now, having Shaquille in ads and stuff it's always great. But back then, as an unknown brand, it was just a huge impact for us. And because he was also on brand, he was a cop. He did all this policing stuff. He cared about neighborhoods. So it was very he was very authentic for our brand. He wasn't just like having a celebrity. And I think he might be one of the most recognizable people in the world too. Like he is just, anyone sees him. I've never seen anyone not smile when they see him. Young, old, it's just like, it just kind of just makes you smile.
It's great.
Thank you.
Hi, Jamie. I remember you mentioned when you first had your aha moment of Ring and struggling to learn the engineering, the underlying engineering behind the idea. What was the deliberation process of choosing to go for the learning aspect of trying to understand the engineering as opposed to maybe bringing on a co-founder with more of an engineering background?
If I could have found, I would have brought a co-founder on if I could have found one that understood hardware. I just couldn't find, it's just the timing, right? I was trying to get this thing done. If I had unlimited time, probably looking back, I would have loved a co-founder that would have understood hardware. And it wouldn't have been a bad thing. I wasn't against it. It's like you're moving the ball down the field. You're just trying to get there, and you just do whatever you can to get there. And it turned out that I couldn't find anyone like that the whole way. And so we kind of scrapped it together. I had an engineer that was working with me who was a software person, but that was definitely the hardware side we had zero understanding of.
Sweet. Thank you.
Yep, thanks.
Hi, my name is Reed Thompson, and my question is, in the early days of Ring, how did you balance the customer feedback and your own conviction of Ring's kind of product roadmap and what you wanted to sell?
It's a great question in terms of, so we had this mission to make neighborhoods safer. So certainly there was a lot of stuff that it was a good way to sort out, because people would say I want to control my pool with Ring, because they looked at it as a smart home thing. And if we didn't have a mission, we might have been let's do the pool thing. And we you go into a million directions. That was easy to say no to. No, sorry, we're you should control your pool. I'm sure there's products that can do it, but we're not that product. So we knew who we were, which was extremely important, especially as a startup. The things that we got the best, I would say, feedback from is when someone, you get email after email of people asking about something where they're not telling you what to build because they don't think they can even imagine it, but they're saying my car got broken into in front of my garage. My this happened in front of my garage. My that happened in front of my garage. And then I'm driving around, I'm seeing there's floodlights in front of every single garage with motion detection and power on. Why don't we put a camera in one of those? And so that was our floodlight camera, which is probably one of the most, as a single SKU, might be one of the best selling cameras in the history of the world. And that came from it wasn't just looking at a house and be where are we going to put more cameras? It was, where are we going to put more cameras? Where are problems happening? And getting all of that ground truth data into your brain. It's not one thing though. Invention is usually hard to just have one person say I want this great product, build it. It's listening to what they really want, what's their actual problem, and trying to solve it for them. So that I do recommend it's the customer thing. I think the biggest embodiment of Steve's constant customer was putting your email in the box and actually like having customers eat, like, you know, talking to customers is, it's like as simple as it sounds, like it is the best way to hear from your customers. Like, I mean, but no one does it. Like very few companies you can talk, like very few companies, the top 5 or 10 people in the company are actually hearing from customers in that, I'd say, raw of a way.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
And our last question.
Hello.
Oh,
My
there you
name
go.
is-
Last question.
My name is Isabella Lee. I'm also from Jersey.
Oh, nice.
And I wanted to ask, as Ring grew more and more successful and powerful, did that sort of power like ever make you, like the dark side of business, the greed and the competition, ever make you question your sense of self or the mission you had for Ring originally?
I don't think I got lucky to get it that big. No, I'd say, you know, I think this is also where like having a mission of like, our mission wasn't like our business, the goal of our business wasn't to, you know, build the biggest company with the most EBITDA. Like we never actually cared about sales in the sense of, there wasn't like a goal that we wanted to have like 100 million of sales or 50 million of sales. The goal was to get as big as we could because we wanted to impact neighborhood safety. And so I do think with that, like we were able to keep a very good culture around the business. Whereas if your goal was, everyone's getting up to do the book thing, by the way. Where if your goal was though to make 50 million, then 100 million, then a bill, like if your goal was all money based and financial based, I think I can see like that's where I think companies can lose their way a little bit. And then you start making decisions that maybe are more questionable versus like the long term, like the best businesses are the ones that have like a very long term goal to them. So
Thank you.
thanks. Thanks guys. I'll see you over here.
Okay, so